we will be sharing and discussing. Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you for joining us today for the exciting session where we will be discussing how to ace internship in just 4 months. We are privileged to have with us today a distinguished guest who has been ranked as LinkedIn top voice for the year 2023. He is a full stack web developer and GDSC lead for the year 2021. As we embark on the journey of the learning and discovery, we will explore tips and tricks on how to make the most of the internship in just short period of time. We all know how important internships are for our career, growth, and especially for those who are just starting experience. So, without any further delay, I would like to introduce the esteemed speaker for the session, Sir Yajas Sardan, who will be sharing with us his secret on how to ace internship in just 4 months.
Hi, Nehal. Thanks a lot for that lovely introduction. Before we get started, could somebody just send me the live link for the session so that I can also view the comments and the live count? You can drop it in the private chat. Perfect. So let's get started. So are my slides visible? Oh, perfect. So yeah, I think I'll be operating the slides from the studio itself. So I'm Yaja Sardana. Here are some things about me. Firstly, thanks a lot for Witty Hack. Thanks a lot to Witty Hacks for having me here for a session. So today we are going to talk about how to crack internships in 4 months or placements in 4 months. So why 4 months? Firstly, because right now March is going on, right? And 4 months down the line, companies are going to visit to a lot of our campuses, and even a lot of companies are going to have off-campus drives. So how can we maximize our effort in these last 4 months to ensure that we can crack good offers is something that we are going to talk about today. So something about me, first, although she did mention all of these things in your introduction, but bottom line, I'm a full stack developer. I'm a fourth year engineering student who's still studying at NSIT in Delhi. I'm pursuing IT at NSIT. Apart from that, I create content on LinkedIn. I create content on Twitter. I do a lot of public speaking sessions. I do a lot of sessions on various topics. We'll be covering more about that as well. So without much ado, let's dive right into it. So internships and placements, 4 months to go. So when we hear about this term, internships, placements, the internship season, placement season, the first question that everyone keeps asking is that DSA or development, DSA or CP or development. There's this debate going on around, right? And secondly, people have this confusion that are internships and placements based more on luck, or are they based more on hard work? Because you often find people saying that I did 100 questions, someone else did 50 questions, but the person with 50 questions got a placement and I did not. So we'll try to understand why that happens. Is it a lot about luck? Is it a lot about hard work? So we'll dive into all these questions in the presentation. Let me get one doubt out of the way right away. So if you ask me DSA or development, my answer can't be any one of them, because questions like such have an answer in the gray area. So when you want to crack a good placement, a good internship, companies are looking for someone who's a good problem solver, who's good at software development. So it's never DSA or development, it's generally DSA and development. Some companies might want DSA more, some companies might want development more, but for most companies it's going to be a combination of the two. So what are the things that we are going to cover tonight? I think I have four or five main verticals for you. So we'll talk about DSA, we'll talk about core subjects, we'll talk about building a resume, we'll talk about projects, we'll talk about mock interviews, and we'll also talk a few things about contests. So I'll just give you very quick pointers on all of these things. Because we just have 4 months to go, we will not stretch this session as a lot. We'll try to wrap this session within 30-35 minutes. So let's make this quick and gain a lot of value today. Apart from that, I'd love to get your doubts in the comment in the chat section. So feel free to shoot any doubts that you have, and we do have some time at the end as well for Q&A, so you can ask your questions then as well. So, firstly, DSA, the elephant in the room, the topic that most companies ask, the topic that most students dread. So, this meme went viral very recently where someone was asking, Kylie Jenner was asking, "Can you guys please recommend books that made you cry?" And someone replied with the book Data Structures and Algorithms in Java. Because for people who know Java, people who are doing Java, they understand how frustrating Java at DSA can be. So yeah, how can we become good at DSA? How can we do DSA? There are, I think, five major steps that I feel if someone covers, they should be good to go for DSA. So we'll be talking about them. So I think these are the five primary steps when you talk about DSA. The first one is obviously learning. Now, if you're someone who still doesn't know how the basics of DSA, you don't know what are arrays, you don't know what are hash tables, then I think right now YouTube and GFG have ample resources for you to learn entire DSA enough for placements. So there's a lot of YouTube playlists online. There's Kunal Kushwaha's playlist, there's Love Babbar's playlist, there's Anuj Bhaiya playlist. There's a lot of playlists, there's Striver's playlist, obviously. So a lot of these people are doing great work. You can just check out their YouTube channel and you should be good to go. Apart from that, if you want to read about data structures, if you want to read about algorithms, then there's GFG. Again, all of us must be referring to these. Now let's come to the 4 month part. So how can you maximize the next 4 months for DSA? First is solving questions. Nothing can, like, you can't crack DSA interviews by just learning DSA. You also have to practice DSA. And for that, the best way to do so is by solving a lot of questions. So how do you choose the questions that you have to solve? How do you decide the questions to solve? So as you must know, there are a lot of DSA sheets going on around. I think there's a Striver sheet, there's Love Bubber sheet, there's lead coding sheet, there's coding block sheet. There's a lot of sheets going on. So my personal favorite, even right now after 2 years, is Striver's SD sheet, for the sole fact that it has 191 questions, and all those 191 questions teach you something new, something different, some other new approach. So if you just have 4 months in hand, solve these 191 questions and solve all the questions that are, and you will have a very strong DSA base. Apart from that, my platform of preference is LeetCode. So you can solve the top interview sheets on LeetCode. So LeetCode has the lists, top interview list, top 100 interview lists. So you can check those lists out as well. A lot of those questions are still from the Striver SD sheet. So if you do a combo of Striver's SD sheet and the LeetCode top interview sheets, you should be good to go. As in, you will have a very good base of DSA. Then third comes practice, practice, and practice. So as I mentioned, I like LeetCode because they do have a good set of questions. Their UI is great. They have a daily challenge. They have daily weekly contests. They have a lot of things going on. So I think LeetCode is a good platform to stick to. Now to practice, I suggest firstly doing the LeetCode daily challenge. If you have still not heard of the LeetCode Daily Challenge, so LeetCode Daily Challenge is a challenge that happens on LeetCode every day, where you get a problem to solve in 24 hours. And if you stay consistent at solving those problems, you earn coins using which you can buy a LeetCode T-shirt. And apart from being incentivized by the T-shirt, another major incentive to basically do questions daily is that you will stay consistent. You'll get to revise a lot of important concepts. So overall, I think lead code daily challenge is something that you should keep doing. Now, one strategy you can follow for lead code daily challenge is that just make a promise to yourself that jab tak you don't get your desired offer, you'll keep doing the lead code daily challenge. So if you go to see my lead code graph from 2 years ago, even I took the same challenge, that until I get my desired internship, I'll keep doing the DSA daily, the lead code daily challenge. So I did the challenge for I think about 5 months without missing a single day. Regardless of if I had COVID, if I was not well, if I was partying, I was still doing the question. Then fourth is to follow an exhaustive approach. So a lot of you will face this situation jahan pe you will be sitting on campus, you will be sitting off campus, and you will come across cases where your friend who just did 200 questions gets a very good placement and you don't get one even after doing 500 questions. And then you will compare, you will compare this on face value. You will think that all of it is luck based because that person got an internship or a placement by just doing 200 questions. but it's more about how you approach each and every question. So I think that even if you just do 200 questions, but you are very, very exhaustive in the way you solve those problems, then that's way better than just solving problems for the sake of solving them. So, how can you follow an exhaustive approach? Firstly, whenever you see a question, solve it from brute to optimal. Solve. So basically, let's say you take a DSA question generally can have 3 4 answers, 3 4 approaches. Ensure that you go through all the approaches. Secondly, for every question that you solve, even while practicing, do the time and space complexity analysis, because during interviews you will be asked this question. Then third is a hack that I used to follow. So whenever you are solving a DSA question, write very detailed comments in your code. So that 4 5 months down the line, 3 months down the line, when you have to revise your solutions, revise your questions, you can understand what your intuition might have been when you were solving the question for the very first time. And obviously, when our teacher used to say in school, right, कि लिख के याद करो, लिख के याद करो. So if you write a lot of detailed comments, it helps you remember approaches, it helps you understand approaches. So try to follow an exhaustive approach. Although it will take a lot of time, you will probably take 5 hours to solve 5 questions in a day, but those 5 hours will be 100% worth it. And the last is contests. This is something that most people doing DSA do not give. But the fact of the matter is, when you will be sitting for companies will have online assessments. And in online assessment rounds, you will have to give live contests. And these live contests, if you don't have practice in these live contests, then when you'll be giving these contests in actual company environments, you will face a lot of anxiety. You'll get nervous, you won't be able to stand out of the lot and get into the interview in the first place. So all your interview prep might get wasted. So the solution to that is to give a lot of contests when you are preparing for DSA, doing DSA. Where can you give contests? Firstly, again, Lead Code. So Lead Code has weekly contests every Sunday at 8 a.m. And Lead Code also has bi-weekly contests every Saturday at 8 p.m. So ensure that you do not miss any of these contests. Again, make a pact to yourself कि जब तक you will not get your desired placement or internship, you will not miss a single contest. Very simple. Now, how can we be better at giving contests? What should we aim for while giving contests? Those are things that we'll cover in further slides. Till now, I hope I'm audible. Everybody is following. Sounds good? Sure. So let's go to the next slide. Now, the second is contest. So, a friend of mine once said that lead code contest has 5 problems, with the toughest one being getting up at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And that's very, very, very relatable, because you have to get out of your comfort zone if you have to get up at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning, warm your fingers up, and start coding out solutions to tough problems. So, if you make a pact with yourself that you will not miss a single contest on any Sunday till you get a desired offer, your motivation will also remain high, that you are making serious efforts to get a desired placement. Now, here are my five pointers or 5 principles that you should follow while giving lead code contests. So if you keep all these 5 in mind, then you should be good to go, and you should be acing online assessments like anything. So first is the 333 goal. So what is the 333 goal? Lead code contests have 4 questions and 90 minutes. Your aim should be that in most contests you solve 3 questions in the first 30 minutes, and your aim should reach 333, which means that for 3 consecutive contests you should solve the first 3 problems in 30 minutes. And if you are able to do so, you can tell yourself that you are geared up very well for DSA rounds of companies. Second is the consistency pact, which I talked about, that you will not miss a single contest until you get your desired offer. A third is very important, it's to upsolve. The whole point of giving contests is not to solve what you already know. It's also to learn new concepts. It's also to learn new approaches. And you can only do so if you upsolve. What is upsolving? Whenever you give a contest, let's say you are able to solve just 2 questions, then it's your responsibility, it's your duty to make an effort to solve the third and the fourth question, or at least the third question after the concept. Read solutions, read approaches, read what other people did, understand their intuition, and then code the solution out yourself, so that you don't you learn this new approach and you are able to apply this the next time you face a similar question. Fourth is live greater than virtual. See, you can also give virtual contests on LeetCode, right? Or virtual contests on any platform. But you should prioritize giving live contests first, because the pressure of a live contest, the nervousness of a live contest is something which cannot be reproduced in a virtual contest. And because you are also going to give your online assessments live, therefore you have to be geared up for it beforehand. And last is post. So lead code has a very good discuss section, right? So what I used to do is that after every contest, I would pick up the problem that I enjoyed solving the most, and I would create a post out of my solution. So I would explain it one by one. I would probably add some diagrams, and I would create a detailed post. So what this would do is that firstly it would get me a lot of upvotes on lead code. So I still flex that I have around 500 upvotes on lead code. So it's a good reputation to have. And secondly, apart from it giving me something to flex about, it also helped me get better at explaining concepts. So because I was writing blogs to explain someone my solution, I was getting better at documenting. I was getting better at explaining my approach to someone, and therefore when I was appearing for interviews, even then I knew how to write intuitions, I knew how to do space and time complexity analysis. So yeah, all if you follow all these five principles for every contest, believe me, you will be unbeatable when it comes to DSA. Now, the third part that we'll cover is the four core. So, starting last year, companies have started paying more attention to asking you about CS fundamentals and core subjects. These are things which are very, very important when it comes to very important when it comes to interviews, because companies like Shaw, Intuit, Atlassian, these are asking a lot about core subjects, and even Microsoft does. So, what are a few core? What are the most important core subjects that you should prepare for, and how can you prepare for them? We talk about them right now. First is DBMS, that is Database Management Systems. This covers mainly SQL, and apart from that, some DBMS concepts like asset properties, normalization. So, firstly, if you have a DBMS course in college, ensure that you pay attention in that course. You study well for the exams, because it will not only help you get a better GPA, but it will also help you in interviews. Same is the case for OOPS, CN, and OS. Now, what are some resources to study these subjects? First is obviously Gate Smashers. So Gate Smashers, if you're an engineering student and you don't know what Gate Smashers, are you living under a rock? So a lot of us have passed our end semesters, mid semesters, practical vivas by just looking at going through Gate Smasher playlists, watching Gate Smasher playlists. So for DBMS, you can watch the Gate Smasher SQL playlist, which takes you to nested queries. A lot of companies are still asking nested queries, so you can check that out. For OS as well, the Gate Smashers playlist is quite nice. Apart from that, to practice SQL questions, you can practice them on HackerRank and on LeetCode. For operating systems, one notes that I recommend for last minute revision are the bedtime stories with OS notes. Just Google bedtime stories with OS and you will find this 50-page PDF which will help you revise entire operating systems in one night. It's very, very to the point. It's very, very well written. So again, highly recommended. Computer networks is something which is fairly optional. Few companies might ask it, but you can also tell them that it's not in your subject, and it's not a subject for you. But as long as computer networks are in the JD, you can be asked about computer networks. Or if the interviewer has an interest in the same, you can be asked about it. So it's better to be prepared. Apart from that, all these subjects have a top interview questions list on interview bit. These are a list of 50 to 100 questions which are very, very frequently asked. So ensure that before interviews you go through these lists for DBMS, OSCN, and OOPS. And lastly, when you are preparing for object oriented programming, ensure that you just don't read concepts. Ensure that you also implement OOPS concepts, implement some OS algorithms using OOPS, implement some computer network algorithms using OOPS, so that you get better at implementing things using OOPS, and you also develop a deeper understanding of these algorithms. Because I have been in an interview, and a very important interview, where I was asked to basically code an operating system algorithm. I think the first fit and the best fit algorithm using linked lists and OOPS. So that was a fun experience, but I was not very prepared. Fourth, again, very, very important, mock interviews. Here's a plug from my Twitter where I tweeted mock interview देने गया था, mock होके आया हूँ. So interviews में mock होना, getting mocked in mock interviews is better than getting mocked in real interviews. So how can you give mock interviews? Firstly, you need not pay for mock interviews, because in most cases you can just find friends who are preparing for similar roles. So just find friends who are preparing for SD roles, find friends that are preparing for roles which are similar to yours, and give mock interviews with them. First, just look for interview experiences online on YouTube and GFG and see how interviews work. Once you know the structure of an interview, then set up a meet with your friend where you first interview your friend and then your friend interviews you, and keep doing mock interviews every week or twice every week, because these will again help you handle the stress of real interviews. They'll help you come across new questions, they'll help you get better at communication, they'll help you get better at explaining. And again, most people end up doing mock interviews at the very end, where it's a bit too late to improve. So I suggest that you start giving mock interviews with 4 months in hand. Find friends, and if you don't have friends with similar aims, just go to InterviewBit. I think InterviewBit still has a portal where you can schedule mock interviews with random people, where you have to take their mock interview, and in return they'll take a mock interview for you. So please do check that out. I hope everybody is following till here. uh, Anybody who's watching, can I get a yes in the chat box? Perfect. So fourth very important thing is resume. So when you apply for companies, you need to have a resume to send, which basically covers everything that you have achieved, everything that you are about, everything that you know, your skill set. So we'll talk about the things that you should definitely cover in your resume. So there's a meme going around that however can my brilliance be captured in a one-page resume. So should we have multiple pages of resume? What should we mention in a resume? What should we not mention? We'll talk about that. So formally, a resume is simply a formal structured summary of a profile. Very simple. These, I think, are the five primary components of a resume. You can take a screenshot of this. I won't dive in. These are fairly self-explanatory. I'll just cover a few pointers on the top of my head. First is the skill set. In the skill set, ensure that you only mention skills that you actually know. So let's say if you have just spent 1 day or 1 week doing JavaScript, do not mention it in your skills. If you are mentioning a skill like JavaScript, you should know what a promise is. You should know how a sync await works. You should know what is an event loop. But to just you should know what are closures. So do not mention JavaScript or do not mention any skill just because you have done a 1 month course, 1 week course on it. Only mention a skill if you have built a project in it, if you have some hands-on experience, and if you have some some understanding of it, so that you can answer questions in the interview. Otherwise, if an interviewer asks you about a skill on your CV and you're not able to answer that question, then the interviewer faces a very serious dilemma. That if this person can't even answer questions about something that they have mentioned on their own, then how can I show confidence in them to select them? So just don't mention skills for the sake of mentioning them. Now, in projects, it's important that you don't not mention projects which are directly taken from a course. Do not mention to-do list. Do not mention a simple e-commerce project. Take a simple project and add some spin to it. If it's a full stack app of e-commerce, change it to something like maybe a vaccine management software, something unique, something with your own twist, so that firstly the interviewer sees that you have made some different effort, and secondly, when you are making these changes, you will also develop a deeper understanding of a project. Other than that, I think as a fresher, these five pointers are more than enough to make a resume which is for one page. Now, coming to a resume format, this is one format that I basically promote, or a format that I really like. So, how can you get this format? Simply Google single page DD. So if you Google single page DD, you'll find this single page format which looks beautiful, which just has a single column, and I think is ATS friendly. So I know ATS is a very debated topic, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So why not make your resume ATS friendly? So again, it's a single column. It's a very good single column template that you can check out, and try to avoid double column resumes, because although we don't know if ATS actually is in use right now in companies or not, but if it is, then double column resumes do not go through ATS well. So again, let's be safe than sorry. So here are some do's to make a good resume. Firstly, do role based optimization. When you are applying for any company, go through the job description and find things that you have, that you know about, that align with the job description. And if you are able to find such skills, if you are able to find such things, ensure that you edit your CV and mention them in your CV, so that if a machine or even an HR is going through your resume, they can see that there is a high match with the job description. Second is that if you are mentioning when you are mentioning projects, try to mention deployed links, so that anyone can just click on those links and check your projects out. And third, if you are mentioning work experience or even projects, try to mention a lot of figures. Mention that, let's say, at a company you took your feature from 10 users to 1000 users. Your feature was used by 10,000 people. You made a project with 100 stars on GitHub, because figures is something that everyone likes. And here are some don'ts for your resume. First is obviously avoid extra long CVs. Nobody, like, especially as a fresher, I don't think anybody has so much content that they should make a 2 or 3 page resume, because their resume is supposed to be a summary. Now, if it's taking too much time to go through a summary of your profile, then the recruiter might just not make that effort. So ensure that you have a 1 page resume for every fresher. If you feel that you have too much content, prioritize it. Only pick up things that are relevant to to the particular role you're applying to and put them on your CV. Secondly, do not rate your skills. It's a very rookie mistake. Let's say you have put 10 skills and you rate all 10 of them. Interviewer will just pick up the lowest rated skill and ask you all the questions. So why will you do that to yourself? And apart from that, this rating doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's say you're rating your skills out of 5. On what scale are you doing so? What parameters are you following? All of that is ambiguous. So just don't rate your skills, just mention the skills you have. And thirdly, do not add pictures or home addresses to your resume. No recruiter wants access to that. Nobody wants to see your picture to hire you. It's all about your skills and your profile. So for general cases, for SD rules, avoid mentioning avoid mentioning adding a picture. Avoid adding a picture or mentioning your address. So yeah, talking about extra long CVs, this is not how your CV should look like. And now you can take a screenshot of the next slide. So these are some actionable words that you can use in your CV. Because see, bottom line, we are trying to be engineers. We are not people with very, very good vocabulary. A lot of us might be in the same boat as me, where we struggle at coming up with synonyms. So here are some actionables that you can steal for your resume, that you can use in your resume. Some things for accomplishments: accomplished, completed, delivered, launched, determined, surveyed, established, devised, developed. All this jargon can be used to make a good articulate CV. So feel free to take a screenshot. Now coming to projects. So I, like, whenever even I take mock interviews, I often listen to descriptions like, "Sir, may I interest you in a blockchain-based AI-enabled to-do list DApp?" So what do I do with such a pitch? What do I do with such a project? And what makes a good project? What all things should we keep in mind while talking about projects? Are things that we'll cover. So, as I mentioned, firstly, your project should try to have a unique twist in your project. Try to have an X factor. Try to add something which has been added by you uniquely, and not something which has come directly from a code along or a tutorial. Second, ensure that you have end-to-end knowledge about your project. Never fake that you have made a project and pick it from someone else. Only mention projects that you have actually made, so that you can answer all the questions. Thirdly, try to write good documentation for your project, because when you're applying to smaller companies, people might check out your GitHub, and if they go to your GitHub and your readme is empty, then that's not a very good indication. But if you have a very detailed readme, it shows that you have made your project end to end. So try to write good documentation. And apart from that, for everyone who are web developers, who are full stack developers, who are looking to apply to SD roles and want project ideas, I think one very, very safe choice generally is to make any project which has three things: of front end, preferably in a framework like React, which is a modular framework, a library. Then, apart from like a library like React, there should be an API. There should preferably be a REST API with CRUD operations, and there should be a backend which is interacting with the database. And this makes things full stack. With that, you can maybe add authentication, authorization. You can use some middlewares. You can maybe add a payment gateway. And building such a complex project, which is not very unique, but is which is making you explore a lot of paradigms, is making you understand front end, back end, APIs, databases, shows that firstly will help you get a better understanding of all these things and prepare you better for interviews. And it will show the interviewer that you can build something end to end. So instead of running for uniqueness and building a very small project with some blockchain into it, it's better to keep it simple. Just go for any project which has CRUD operations and the things that I mentioned. Now, this is what a good README might look like. So, this is a README from my own project called Just Chat. So, I've mentioned what the project is about. I've added a preview of the project, and I've also detailed that if you want to clone the project, if you want to run it locally, what all can you do? There's configuration, there's setup, there's running locally. So, these are a few things that you can include in your documentation to make it better. And now that we are approaching the end of the 4 month strategy, and before we move on to the Q&A, I have, I think, two or three parting notes for you people, things that I resonate with, things that I feel you should keep in mind before you start setting for placements and internships. First is that I think a lot of us do relate to this meme, right? That those fail हो जाए तो दुख होता है, but लेकिन those first आया है तो ज़्यादा दुख होता है. Now, if you keep this very same mindset when you are applying for internships and placements, it will take a very serious toll on your mental health. So, in at all such points where your friends get an internship, where your friends get a placement, but you don't, firstly, celebrate them, congratulate them. And if you can't do all these things, just think of them like a future referral. Whatever helps, just do not take stress on your mind, because bottom line, remember that your career is not a zero sum game. Whenever you talk about your career path in tech, there are a lot of companies, there are a lot of roles. Everybody has their own trajectory. So your friend getting a role does not mean that the role has been stolen from you. Everybody is being evaluated on their own. Everybody is being considered as individuals. So do not consider your career as a zero sum game. Try to avoid uh, try to avoid like getting jealous of people just because they have done lesser questions of you but gotten better roles, because ultimately it's a journey, it's not a one shot single zero sum game. And if you keep reiterating this to yourself, it will help you stay sane, it will help you stay calmer, it will help you stay at peace. Second, whenever you are sitting at for companies, if companies come to your campus or if you are even interviewing off campus, remember that in interviews the intent is to select and not reject. If a company is sending HRs to your college, if a company is asking their engineers, if a company is asking engineers to interview you, if your company is sending full time people who are instead of coding, instead of doing their full time job, are spending time asking you DSA questions, that is because these companies actually want to select you. That is because these companies actually want to take you for like take you select you for their roles. And therefore whenever you are sitting for interviews, tell yourself that you are going to an interview to get selected, not rejected. So whenever an interviewer is asking you questions, they are not counting the number of times where you go wrong, they are counting the number of times that you go right. They are trying to find positives in you and you're in not negatives. So whenever you forget an answer, don't pester yourself during the interview that now I am out. Try to like one up it, try to come up with better answers for the next question. Take it one step at a time and you should be good to go. And lastly, smile. Very important. When we talk about interviews, smiling projects a lot of confidence. When you're smiling while talking, when you're smiling while talking to someone, firstly, people think that you're confident about what you're saying. Second, it helps you calm your own nerves. Imagine any situation where you are angry, imagine any situation where you are nervous. Imagine if you were smiling at those points of times. Smiling would have very like voluntarily helped you stay calmer, help you become calmer, help you calm your nerves. So smile, project confidence using smiling. And how can you smile through an interview? I have a very small hack for it. So what you can do is that just take a post-it, write smile on it, and paste it on the chin of your laptop. And now whenever you look at that post-it during the interview, start smiling. So that you don't forget during the interview, if it's going bad, that you have to smile. So this is what you can do. So this is a picture I have like picked from my LinkedIn. So I wrote a post about the smile posted very recently. So you can just paste a smile posted on the chin of your laptop. And lastly, uh, remember that not a single minute of hard work is going to go to waste. Because see, this is a line that a lot of my seniors also used to say, that the company which has come for you, the company जो तुम्हारे लिए आई है वो तुम्हें लेके ही जाएगी. In a broader sense, what this means is that every day that you make a sacrifice to give a contest, every day that you make time to do a daily question, is adding a positive delta to your preparation, is adding a positive delta to your journey. So take it one step at a time, believe in the process, follow the actionables that I shared, follow the actionables that a lot of people are sharing, a lot of creators are sharing online. Stick to a strategy and keep following that strategy, and you will get your desired offer. It does not happen where you do all the right things, you trust the process, and still there's not a desired offer at the end. There are ample opportunities in the market even right now, in the situation that there is out there. A lot of startups are still hiring. There's still a lot of hiring going on if you look into the right places, if you have the right proof of work. So trust the process, take it one step at a time, and not a single minute of hard work will go to waste. So I think these were the things that I wanted to cover today. I've given you 5 6 main topics with actionables. I've left you with 3 4 parting notes. I hope all these things were clear to you. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope that I didn't take a lot of your time. I tried to keep this as swift as possible. Otherwise, I have covered this PPT before for more than an hour. If you want to check my socials out, reach out to me. You can do so on my LinkedIn, you can do so on my Twitter. If you want to collaborate with me, if you want to call me for a session, let's say at your college, a session on your channel, anywhere at your hackathon, you can reach out to me on my Gmail, jasyajust.collab@gmail.com. And yeah, also check out Witty Hacks if you haven't already. I hope you have, because you're on the channel. And yeah, that's it from my side. We have some time for the Q&A, so I'd love for you to ask questions. If anybody has any questions, just put them in the chat box. We'll just wait for a minute. I think there's a delay in the stream. Let's see if we have any questions, and then we'll get started. Sir, how can we be consistent in problem solving? So I think firstly, consistency comes with accountability. So the best way to start being consistent is to the daily question. 21 days karo, 22nd day, you will feel the urge to do another question. Be consistent so that your streak does not break. So being consistent is similar to maintaining a Snapchat streak. If you have been consistent for 90 days, you will stay consistent on 91st day. The first step towards being consistent is to start doing the daily question. And apart from that, if you are going ahead with a particular aim in mind, just try, like, work towards it every day. And I think with the number of actionables that I have shared and that are required to get better at DSA, it is very difficult to not be consistent, because just there's just a lot to do, that if you won't stay consistent, then it will get difficult. Yeah, take a pact, do give contest consistently, do daily questions, daily challenge consistently. And if you still struggle at being consistent, just find a friend, do peer programming, push them to be consistent, and they'll do the same for you. Best way to look for internships is asked by Mr. Akira. So I think the best way to look for internships, there's a lot of routes out there. You can check out Internshala. You can check out Kuwait Tech. Kuwait Tech, I think, has a lot of great internships to offer. Apart from that, you can check out the career pages of a lot of companies. You can check out LinkedIn jobs. You can search for hashtag hiring on LinkedIn. You can search hiring internships on Twitter. A lot of companies are hiring remote interns on Twitter. A lot of amazing founders hire people themselves on Twitter as interns. So you can check that out. And if you go to hackathons, then you can even find internships at hackathons. A lot of hackathons have sponsor tracks, right? So whenever you find a sponsor representative, just integrate their product, talk to them, and you might get an interview. Yeah, I'm talking about offline internships. A lot of them, like a lot of companies on LinkedIn, on Twitter, are also offering offline internships. Even Kuwait, I think, does offer offline internships. Yeah, I think those are all the questions. I hope you people had a good time. Think sure. If you have any questions, go ahead. Otherwise, Nehal, you may take over.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for sharing your insights with us, sir. It was very informative. I would like to thank all of you for joining for today's session. I hope you found the session knowledgeable. Thank you so much.
Thank you.